Greetings, this is Brian Shanley, and you are listening to my video blog, which is entitled Brian James Shanley Raw. Brian James Shanley Raw began in the fall, the late summer / early fall of 2017, and it was an attempt to address the theological, philosophical, economic, political science, and cultural issues of our time period from a Christian perspective. And so it's been going sporadically, on again, off again since 2017. But people have always been able to drop in and, in a world that was chaotic, get the sanity of the scriptures as the basis from which a clergyman was going to try to shed some light on something that the times caused us to face. I'm announcing from the outset that Brian James Shanley Raw is coming to its end. Not because there's a decline in the people that care about or benefit from it, not because it has reached the end of its usefulness, but because the needs of the ministry that God has given me are going to change. And I have to, if the ministry is a pie composed of multiple pieces, Brian James Shanley Raw has occupied quite the important piece of that pie. I have to take the energy that I would put into Brian James Shanley Raw and put towards something else that's forthcoming that I feel is equally important for the coming times. This one, since it started in 2017, and I think it will end in early 2014, this is not the final episode. I'll do a final episode later, but this is the announcement of the fact that if I was a quarterback in my final year, this is the announcement. We're not renewing the contract. It gets you ready for the fact that the ending is coming. Or like, if the network announced, this is the final season of whatever show is your favorite. So at least you know that something you enjoy is breathing its last, and a certain body of work is going to reach its completeness. And so as I'm making this announcement, and like I said, there will be other episodes, one or two maybe, to kind of put a bookend on Brian James Shanley Raw. And then one day it will exist as a completed group of work. And you've seen some very important stuff covered during some very important times. And I'm going to make sure you're always able to see them. But so you're probably thinking, okay, today he's going to handle something really weighty, because he's getting ready to do his closing words as it relates to this particular thing. So your favorite TV show, as it's ramping up towards the finale episode, that final season is crazy because story arcs. Hate to disappoint you, but I'm not going to be covering something deep or philosophical or political or economical or theological or whatever. I'm actually going to be telling you a story. Like an old man, story time with Shanley. And I don't know why my mind has been here lately, but I'm going to tell the story. In the year 2010, I went through a major life change that made it necessary to take my 3 children at that time and move to St. Cloud and surrounding communities. So we lived there from April of 2010, all of 2010 after that point, all of 2011, and we're coming back in 2012. St. Cloud is a smaller town than the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, Bloomington, etc. And so the ability to go there and decompress from hardcore survivalist, hyper-vigilant city life. You have the chance to breathe. You have a moment's peace. You have a moment's rest. And after a while, you get so relaxed in a small town that your guard goes down. And it's okay for your guard to be down there because it's less dangerous. And once you take on that kind of relaxation and you return back to the concrete jungle that you came from, where everyone is working an angle trying to slit your throat, but you still have the relaxed mind that you got from being in the sticks, being gone for a couple of years, you might not be ready to meet the challenge. So I'm in broad daylight, downtown Minneapolis, on Marquette Avenue, I think it was only buses are supposed to go there, but I turned down there by accident. And maybe 7th Street. So we're talking right in the mid. And because I'd spent some time in the country. Did I have all 4 doors locked in my car? I did not. So I'm sitting there at a red light, and all of a sudden, the door opens and a man gets in. He says, "Give me your wallet, give me your phone, give me all your jewelry, give me every penny in your pocket." I look up and there's a gun in my face. I hadn't had a gun in my face at that point in 20 years. But what I learned at that moment was the passing of 20 years didn't make a gun in my face any less frightening. Didn't make it any less, I wonder if I'm going to be alive in a few minutes to help my children. And so, yeah, there was definitely, but I had to stay calm, cool, and collected. A, because I wasn't going to escalate this person if they were a junkie or whatever. But B, I wasn't going to give them the satisfaction of knowing that they scared me. It's a guy thing. So I stayed calm. And then the guy had a mask over his face, but I looked him in the eye, and the eyes were familiar. And I'm like, "Is that who I think it is? Take off your mask right now." And he said, "Brother Brian?" That's a reference to my early 2000s minister in training. I wasn't Reverend Dr. Brian James Shanley back then. I was Brother Brian. He was hearkening to a time early in my life. He took down his mask. And it's a grown man, but it's a grown man that I knew as a little boy. I looked at him and my heart melted. Wow, I remember when he was a little boy. Now you got to attempt at a mustache and all this stuff. And I was happy to see him, even though he had a gun pointing at me. But the youth pastor in me, because he used to be one of my Bible students, I'm like disappointed that this is the way he turned out. And so I said, "What the heck is wrong with you? Give me that gun." I took the gun from him, and then I slapped him a couple times. I said, "What are you doing? Why are you living this way?" And he's explaining a couple of different things that have went wrong in his life since the last time I'd seen him. And at that point, I hadn't seen him in 12 years. And I feel bad for him a little bit. And then I'm like, he said, "Please don't call the police. Please." And I said, "I'm not going to call the police. I'm going to call your grandma." And he said, "No, please call the police." He was more afraid of his grandma beating the crap out of him. And this is a dude thugged out with guns and stuff. He's afraid of his grandma more than the police, more than the courts, more than the jails. So I'm like, I'll keep this from your grandma, but you need to tell me what's happening in your life that led you to be in this position where you think this is acceptable and this is okay to get by this way. And we started talking, and parking was hard, but I know there was a TCF building down there. I was able to find a cash machine. I said, "Look, I'm going to give you $100. And back then, $100 was a lot of money to me. I'm doing this. I was thinking of Sam Jackson in Pulp Fiction. I'm buying your life. I'm giving you this so I don't have to mess you up. I gave him his gun back. It wasn't loaded anyway. He was just trying to front, but I didn't know that at the time. And he went on his way. And it's just one of those weird moments that happen in life, That young man, unfortunately, is not alive anymore. Nor is his beloved grandmother that I threatened him with. But along this pilgrimage called life, they say this is the day that Yahweh has made. But if you take them days and string them into weeks, it's the week that Yahweh made, the month that Yahweh made, the year that Yahweh made, the decade that Yahweh made. And ultimately, every human being's life is a story written by the fingers of God, who is sovereign over all of human history, both macrocosmically in terms of world powers and nations having wars and famines and disasters, but microcosmically in your lifetime too. The Purple City has 4 million stories, and he was one of them. And anyways, I hope this, I don't know why I felt like telling this story, but it was on my mind today. The story goes on and the pages turn, and only God knows where certain roads are going to end. But our trust is in Him alone. Sometimes metaphorically in your life, when you look to the side, you can see the trees, metaphorically, and you can see their their leaves are changing colors, and you know your season's getting set to change. And I can tell with Brian James Shanley Raw getting set to come to its end, for me, the season's getting set to change. And I'm still going to be doing big things and great things to honor God, to exalt Christ, and to advance and defend the gospel across this planet. It's just not going to take the form of Brian James Shanley Raw anymore. So we'll be talking soon. We're ramping up towards the finale. Let me know what you thought of this story. It just popped in my head. All right, bye.